know me. Live tonight with Chris and two other guests, and we're discussing, they've been watching on TV. I just got home, had to pick up our daughter from the hospital in 12 inches of snow. But our conversation tonight, Luigi Mangione, is the jury going to find him innocent? Are they going to release him? Or are they going to convict him of premeditated first-degree murder subject to the death penalty? So I'm here with Chris and two other guests that we'll keep anonymous. Nobody's clicked on here yet, but they do. They'll see this and click on here in just a minute. Here is a fun fact. The fact that I told you that I knew that nobody else knows, Chris. Luigi has the same birthday as I do. How about that? May the 6th.
Share a birthday with a good man.
I just said that. A good man. A man. We're debating good, bad, medium. Good, bad, medium. So we Chris and I have had, and the four of us had a little bit of conversation before deciding to do this with a variety of opinions. Therefore, we are here talking live about this. The CEO of this industry, medical industry, in charge of things, has influence, has an impact on us as patients, our care, what gets paid, what doesn't get paid. Am I right, Chris?
Absolutely.
CEO, he sits at the end of the table. At the end of the table, he's got the big old mallet, whatever he does, however they do that in the CEO world. He has the last word.
That's not fair.
Apparently. So, as of somebody here having the last word, I'm just clicking a few buttons right here. Here we go. Somebody having the last word. Luigi goes and shoots him in the back in the street. Gets a gun, finds him, stalks him, follows him. I don't know, Chris, is it stalking? Is it following? Is it investigative? Is it him being curious? Which one of those words would you classify?
Stalking.
A week's worth of...
It was intentional. I mean, they released his manifesto. And I mean, he openly said in the manifesto that this was his intention. His intention was to do this. He said he did it on his own. He hoped he didn't hurt anybody else when it happened.
Wow.
And the reason why he did it was they've been taking advantage of people for far too long. And he was hoping this would be the jumpstart that people needed.
The jumpstart. Jumpstart meaning what? Jumpstart us into what?
At least the conversation, but it's the fact that the corporations have been able to do this, especially since Obamacare. What was supposed to be something that was a public option just turned into another corporate giveaway. So we're now spending more on subsidies for Obamacare
That's true.
than what it would cost to have like universal health care. All that money is going into these CEOs' pockets.
His
What
pockets.
happened
Okay.
was,
Let me hold
lady-
on. Let me back up here because you're saying a whole lot. So if we're going to debate, do me a favor, Chris. After about every third sentence, pause for a breath so that I can have a question. So you said in the manifesto that his plan was he planned to do this, not harm anybody else. So he's going to kill somebody to open a conversation.
open a conversation or
But yet I'm 57 years old and I haven't shot anybody to open a conversation. I found other ways. I've went to school. I've been trained in communication skills. What makes him think it's okay to shoot somebody and kill them to open a conversation?
because at this point in our country, it's impossible to take on these corporations without doing something drastic like this.
I agree.
You look at people always say violence isn't the answer, but I mean, our country is based on violence. Anytime you have social upheaval, any type of big change is always fought back by the aristocrats, and you have to use violence to get to that. You can sue these companies, but they're trillion-dollar companies. You're not going to get anywhere.
And they drag it out.
The only people.
And I worked
Yeah,
for
they
a
drag it out.
I worked for a politician that was a lawyer, and he said, "I don't care. I don't need this. I don't need insurance for my special event. If somebody gets hurt, I'm a lawyer. I'll drag it out." And that's exactly what you're saying that they would do. I want to say hi real quick. Richie Martinez, Braden Angel, hi. Thanks for joining. I always like to say hi, Chris and friends, to anybody joining on. Just want to acknowledge them, thank them. It's exciting to have them here. So
Absolutely.
now, I think, Chris, you know a little bit about me. Let me interject this really quick because you said something that I say frequently. I've been in the military. Pre-war, I got out in 1990 from the Air Force. I was security police. I worked as a police officer and retired, and then I got in private security as a director. So I managed accounts, money. I was a part of that. I wasn't the CEO. I was just account manager at that specific location. As a director, I helped to hire and train other directors and help them with their budgets and stuff. So I have some experience with this, this money flowing. We had 16, 17 accounts, several $1 million that would involve, salaries, no overtime was allowed, equipment, vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. So I have my feet wet in some of this conversation. I'm not totally different. And I got into corrections. And this is important. And then we'll get back to your conversation, Chris. And thank you, Chris and friends, for being here, by the way.
Anytime.
Yes, and the other friend that's over there by Chris, thanks for joining. She's being silent.
No problem.
But, working in corrections, it's a whole different inside world. And I'm going to do a podcast and talk about, and I'll get Chris to be involved in this too, just because he's already told me he wants to do a couple things and debate. But Chris, there's going to be a conversation we have on here called The War in Prison. How does that sound?
Love it.
Always sounds good.
Okay. And the reason I talk about the war in prison is because being as a police officer, I've investigated, I've arrested, got warrants, I've went to court, I've testified, people go to prison. Then later after retiring, I worked in a prison. So I received these people that were found guilty in some court of law. Happened to be in a different state though. So I've kind of through the justice system. So we have somebody, and we have this system in society. We just saw this on the news. You guys were watching and talking about this. And a lot of people say they free him, that he's justified to do this. So in the law, first degree murder, premeditated, planned. He did this manifesto, you said. Got a gun. He said he was going to do this, kill him to start the conversation because that's the only way to do it. You can't sue people. It takes forever. They got trillions of dollars that gets drug out. They don't get heard. You don't get heard until something drastic happens.
Absolutely.
And we all know from experience, Chris he's over 25. We're all over 25 on this conversation phone call. And we all know, for instance, being police, sometimes policies don't change unless an officer gets killed.
That's terrible.
But you don't want someone to kill an officer to make the policy change. You don't want a correction officer. I've been in a lot of conversations with people in Ohio about the Officer Lansing that was murdered Christmas morning up at Ross Correctional Institution up by Columbus, Ohio. And this conversation's back and forth all over social media. Well, he was antagonizing inmates. He wrote this inmate up for threatening to kill him. I'm here to tell you, working as a supervisor in isolation, these inmates threaten to kill me every 5 minutes of a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
That's normal. I wrote them up just because it's policy. Didn't do it all the time. I didn't always have time to write them up. I'd write up 2 or 3 a day, whoever was the loudest and the most obnoxious. I won't call anybody a name. I won't say they were ignorant or anything. Pass judgment. They're just convicts, cons, incarcerated, in stripes, in a little cell. They can't get out because they've murdered, several people, and they're there for the rest of their life. Somebody who's put a pillow over their head, laughing at me. But so we know how policies get changed, but here we are, and this is going to make a huge impact. And I may have a personal opinion later. I don't know. Chris has a personal opinion now in the fact that is the jury going to find him not guilty? And why? Why would they say not guilty? What would be the reasoning?
Because sometimes they have children and they can't get their medication or procedures done because
Procedures, medication, suffering.
these CEOs.
Because of the
You know what I
CEOs.
think too? It looks like what they're trying to do is go for insanity. It looks like that's what they're working towards in the case.
How is it insanity when you pre-plan it?
So he's got a bad back. So he's got a medical condition. He's had a bad back. Even though his family is quite well off, he had a lot of issues getting his surgeries and a lot of the pain that he had afterwards. So I'm assuming they're going to try to go along the lines of temporary insanity, something along those lines. I don't know if he'll get off. I hope he does. That's the nice thing about having the jury system that we do. It doesn't really matter if you're guilty or not. It matters what those 12 people in that 12 room say.
Exactly.
And because of what they've charged him with, because they've charged him with terrorism. And the problem with that is when they charged him with terrorism, that allows him to bring in the defense of how nasty that company is.
Wait a minute, hold on.
That will play out really well for a jury.
Okay, now here's a big question. Another one listening, Northern Girl Hobbies from Canada. Thanks for joining. So they charged him with terrorism. Okay, so on the podcast here with me, when you say they, I got to say, who's they? You're talking about district attorney in New York City, correct?
The district attorney, yeah.
Prosecutors. So they charge him with terrorism because that allows him to have a different defense?
No.
They charged him with terrorism, but it's going to work in his defense. It should have never been charged as terrorism.
No.
He wanted to kill one person. It wasn't political. It was,
Yeah. And, I come from the military, and when they talk about terrorism, it's an act of terror. It's usually a political act, but it's designed to cause massive loss of life and property damage, financial loss. Property damage and financial loss.
Right now,
this is none of that.
They just charged a 43-year-old wife with 3 kids with terrorism because she was on the phone with an insurance company and said, deny, delay, and whatever. They're charging her with terrorism as well.
I saw that.
They're worried because this is the ruling class. And this is the populace standing up to that. They don't like that. They've never liked that. We've gone through this several times in the country, and it kind of always comes to this. You allow people to get too much power. You allow all these monopoly companies to happen, and people don't have a chance.
Yeah, but I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah, if they're charging with terrorism, then that's obviously a federal charge because it's not a state level charge. But he committed a crime against another human being. He shot a man in the back and killed him. Premeditated, that's murder, so that should be a state charge of first-degree murder in New York. It should begin the court process through that, and then if the feds come in and take over to charge for terrorism later, then that's different. That should be 2 separate different things, like this.
They're trying to throw the book at him because they're scared, and they're scared because of the outpouring of support. He's already raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for his defense. So he's got the best lawyers.
Like you said, with the money, he got the lawyer. Shoot, I just read this. The lawyer he has is the guy, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer. Is that correct?
I think so.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Big name lawyer.
I hate to say it, but in our country, it's really not. We don't have a system that's designed to incarcerate people who are guilty.
No.
We don't. We don't have. We've got a really messed up judicial system. It's been piecemealed together for a long time, and it has a lot of problems.
How about if I throw the word?
If you're rich, you can normally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like OJ. So
Yeah.
you're saying this court system is for convenience. How about if I use that word? It's for convenience of judge, prosecutor, defense attorneys, the courts, the jury pool, convenience of all of that, their schedule. Hey, we need to have some trials. We need to have some vacation.
Yeah.
We need some time off. So we just need to handle this out of court and do this, do that. Let's go. I know as a police officer in local court, I'd be with the prosecutor, defense attorney comes over. Hey, let's do this, do that. I was talking with the judge golfing last night. Prosecutor says, how'd you play? I did great. I scored this. They talk about the golf score. They're talking, and defense attorney's golfing with the judge. They come back with a plea agreement, look at me and says, is that okay? And I was like, it'd be okay if you guys pay for my golf for free and take me to dinner, but that never happened. I never golfed once with them. You know, that was a joke. I wouldn't have done that, but it seems
That's the
like
way
the
the
court
system's
system
set up.
is comfortable with golfing and deciding over a golf course instead of everybody showing up with a shirt and tie and discussing things over legal matters with books over a bookshelf on your shoulder.
Well, I mean, I think at this point, our judicial system has a 97% rate of people taking plea deals. So this is what they do. I mean, the prosecutor threatens to throw the book at them, threatens them with years and years in prison by racking on a ton of charges that really don't fit.
Intimidation.
If they try to fight it.
Sounds like intimidation.
But that's what it is. I mean,
Which
I've seen it myself. I've got friends that have dealt with the law quite a bit. So, I mean, I've seen it myself.
and that reminds me of a movie.
You know, either you plead guilty or you're going to spend 15 years in prison, or you can take a plea deal and you'll get a slap on the wrist.
What's that Gerard Butler, Jamie Foxx movie? Where
Law-abiding citizen.
Law-abiding citizen. Jamie Foxx. What does Jamie Foxx keep telling his assistant? You know, talking about this. Hey, my conviction rate is 99%. My conviction rate is 99%. We love Law and Order. We love Chicago PD. But how many times do you hear the lawyers talk about my conviction rate? And why? Because they need their conviction rate to be high so they can run and be the head district attorney. And then from being head district attorney, they want to be attorney general and move on to Congress.
Huh.
Now, my wife here and I, we know people that are in Congress. Why do we know them? As a police, they were attorneys. We know them. Also, I ran for politics for county jailer 2 years ago. I didn't win the primary. It was very close. And I got elected. Then I got asked, and I worked for a governor candidate and did several things. I was supposed to be head of security and bodyguard. He didn't need a bodyguard because he thought that his mouth was bigger than any threat that was out there, and he didn't really. But I was there just in case, heavily armed. But what I really did most of my time, other than doing threat assessment for his speaking events, make sure there's no gang problems and, you know, nobody threatening to come in and cause a problem at his events. Mostly what I did was talk with volunteers and coordinate with people through the state for his votes. You know, 120 counties in Kentucky broke down by regions. So I spent a lot of time, way too much time for the salary, 7 a.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning most days.
Mm-hmm.
So I know about politics, and I know we went to dinners. We went to speeches along with congressmen, my wife and I did. And Chris, you've got a connection to somebody that is in Congress or plans to run for Congress. You were saying before we got on live.
Yep.
So we're kind of both connected with this, and you know somebody potentially down the road in the future get into Congress and maybe talk about president. So we both have interests politically. We have to, having families, having children.
Absolutely.
And all four of us here that's on this, a part of this, have children. You know, it's about their future. I'm done with school. I have grandkids. I worry about the education of my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with CEOs like that, we're in trouble.
So I did make a comment about something the other day on one of my videos, and it wasn't about this. It was about the New York City, that inmate Robert Brooks. Did you see any of that video where he was beat to death, just beat for hours and hours and hours in the medical intake there?
That was horrible.
And I made that comment. I said, you know, being in police and correction and retired, not justified for anything like that. Well, I got a guy commented this morning or last night, I told you, honey, and said, well, didn't he kill a woman? Or what, he did something to a woman. And it's like, this is regardless of the crime that he did to the woman. You know, that's what a court system, there's a process. It doesn't justify those 14 officers to stand around for hours taking turns kicking and beating and what they're doing to him. That's not justified. I'm sorry, there's something.
Well, Rikers should have been shut down years ago. I mean, Rikers, they starved a couple inmates to death. They've had more deaths in that jail. It's not a prison. That's people that are waiting on trial. So that's like county jail. Like it's bad. Like, and we're running into that, and that's a lot of this all goes back to that CEO stuff. A lot of those are for-profit prisons.
Yep.
They're ran by CEOs to get it as cheap as possible. That's the reason why there's not enough guards. That's why guards end up getting hurt. They refuse medical care. I mean, there was a girl that gave birth in jail, and they used sugar
Sugar.
to stop an infection instead of giving her antibiotics. She had a cesarean.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it all goes back to this. A lot of this changed in the 80s when we changed the way, when we started allowing stock buybacks and and stuff like that. Like it really caused a lot of problems. Like it used to be in our country in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, you wanted to make money, but you were still looking out for the workers. You were still looking out for people. Everything's about maximizing profits. And when you only care about maximizing profits, that's how you end up with a CEO of a healthcare company doing this. Refusing care intentionally. I mean, I think it was Blue Cross Blue Shield was in court 10 years ago because they denied a guy a claim, and he died over it.
Oh my
and they ended up in court over it. And the lawyer for Blue Cross Blue Shield turned around in court knowing he was going to lose the case and thanked the doctor that denied the claim, knowing the guy died, knowing they were going to get sued, because for them, the lawsuit was going to be cheaper than it would have been to cover the medicine, even though he was paying for that health care for years. Like, it's insane. You can't do stuff like that to people and not expect a reaction.
That's the easy way out.
People like dogs. And that's what they're doing.
So
they're treating them like dogs. They're treating them worse than animals.
On a smaller scale than this Luigi incident, and in this comment, I answered this comment, well, just because he killed a woman doesn't mean we get to sit there and beat him to death. I said, that's not what our country has done. I said, if my daughters have been a victim of something in the past, does that give me the green light to, okay, just to go and kill somebody? Now, this is changing the subject. That was my answer there on my comment. But changing the subject on a smaller scale than the CEO thing, this has impacted us directly because my wife has a nerve disease. And about 7 years ago, when we lived in Georgia, getting treatment from pain management doctor down in Chattanooga, all of a sudden he has to stop with the medication. And basically all he was giving you was the lidocaine. Not the lidocaine. What was that patch?
Fentanyl.
It was back when they first started the fentanyl patches, and then a tramadol.
Yep.
And that was it. So it was very controlled, drug tested, all this kind of stuff, very controlled. He was in with a pain management group that had, I believe, 13 offices around Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, maybe there was 3 states. But there's like 13 or 15 of these pain management facilities. And I don't know how, you were there for what, 6-7 months?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden stop and shut down.
Just stopped.
And then we see on the news, it's on the TV news and the written news, the reason it stopped, the doctor that owned this pain management, I don't want to say corporation, I don't know if it's not a corporation, if there's 13 of them, but he owned the name, whatever that name was, he owned it. He got indicted federally along with this 70-some-year-old lady that worked for the Social Security office for Medicare fraud. They were billing for equipment. They were billing for visits. They were billing for oxygen, billing for wheelchairs of people, a lot of them that were already dead. Now, the same thing happened with Hover-Round and a couple wheelchair companies. They got one wheelchair right here in the warehouse, and they bill 4 people, but only one of them's alive. So they bill these 3 people, and then a couple of days later they bill the second, then they bill the third, then they bill the live person and not mail it off to one person. So they're getting paid 4 times for one wheelchair, but the 3 people were dead. So this guy gets charged and indicted federally, and he gets shut down. And I did some research, and his salary, base salary, was about $750,000 as a pain management, not counting the benefits and perks and kickbacks of stuff, medical, whatever. But that was just his salary for the doctor at the place he was at. Not, and he was involved. So he was getting, I'll just say, royalties and a percentage of the other 12 that he wasn't working at. So why would somebody who's making over $1 million a year as a doctor have to go scam Medicare? Well, he's got a gambling problem. He's got a drug problem.
Power.
Living life over that, got to have the yachts, got to be somebody he's not. This just happened to a cardiologist about 2 months ago. Remember? Somebody
Yeah.
close by here. I think it was up in Indianapolis, maybe. Does that sound right? Cardiologist making over $1 million a year, and he got caught up in bilking Medicare out of money. Cardiologist. My goodness. No, it was in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Bowling Green.
Because he was down there where there was 3 different cardiologists. How do you if I'm a doctor, Chris, and you're a doctor, and we're golfing or we're just doing whatever, we're having dinner, how do you get in a conversation? Hey, Chris, psst, by the way, I figured out how we can scam patients in Medicare. Don't worry about how much your paycheck is. I can get us $5 million a year. Is this what doctors do at dinner or golf?
Not all doctors are like that.
No, not all of them. But the ones that are doing this.
It's too easy now. I mean, there's not really a lot of checks and balances anymore.
It's like they have no.
Medicare is, it's one of the best programs, hands down. But because of that, because of the way we've underfunded everything in the government, they don't have enough workers to check everything. So they'll get by with it for a while.
No checks and
That's the
balances.
problem when you cut all these programs all the time. You got to fund them right, or this is going to happen. You have to.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. We don't invest in our people the way that we should. We spend. There's so much waste in the government now. Like I said earlier, literally, there's no reason we shouldn't have universal health care. This should already have been solved years ago. Every other major country on earth has it. If every other country can do it and America can't, come on now. We can. It's cheaper. We spend more on subsidies now than it would cost for every person in America to have health care. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
There's some comments here that you can't see the comments, Chris. I'll catch you up really quick. Northern Girl Hobbies, she's from Canada. It's good versus evil. We can name whatever we want to name or whoever we want to name. Corruption is really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Sargent, you honey, we are all in big trouble. The same happened here with pain doctors. Now, she's in Canada. Now, the Prime Minister of Canada, I can't remember his name.
He just resigned.
Yeah, he resigned. I want to think Rene something, Trudeau. He just resigned, but before, he's gonna pull a Joe Biden, and on his way out, he's gonna do a bunch of crazy stuff.
You think?
Yeah, and then she says unprecedented level of corruption.
Whoa.
Okay, but here's the thing. Now, oddly enough, and Chris, it's okay if you want to just hysterically laugh. The movie that my wife put on, one of my favorite movies, is called
Wrath of Man.
Wrath of Man. Jason Statham, because his son he wants to go back, get into this armored car thing, find out who did it, and kill them all. So he wants to vigilante kill everybody that's killed his son. So ironically, I'm watching this movie, and we get back to this topic that we're talking about. Are they going to find him? So if they charge him with terrorism, if it gets federal, they go with the terrorism charge. And then they're going to look at, if we don't convict him and we don't make an example of him, then everybody else is going to
do it.
So if they go forward with this and find him guilty and then say, but I don't even know if we have the federal death penalty anymore, because Joe Biden is pardoned 37 out of 40, and he might have put a block and a stop, and it might take Trump past his term to the next president to get it back in effect. But so he goes to federal prison, life without parole. Then you're going to have, either way, you're going to have a whole bunch of people be upset because they'll feel like there is no change.
Mm-hmm.
So the prosecutors are going to have to say, well, however we handle this, however we explain this, most importantly in the end, and justify this, it needs to rectify a problem. But I don't believe they're going to do that. And you know why? You remember there's a famous basketball player, and his name slips me right now.
LeBron James.
No. He was involved personally, money. You remember this basketball player, and he died in a helicopter crash with his daughter.
Oh, Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Now, do you know Kobe Bryant had investigators, and this helicopter crash was just a couple days prior to the opening statements of a big federal lawsuit against the big pharma companies, and he had out of his pocket paid investigators and was going to be involved in that, exposing big pharma over Medicare, over pharmaceutical fraud, and all of a sudden his helicopter crashes. That's not a coincidence.
You don't think?
The same thing just happened to the Boeing whistleblower.
The what?
The Boeing whistleblower. There's a whistleblower that came out against Boeing.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, aircraft engines, not
Yeah.
maintenance of them, lying, falsifying documents, saying things were fixed. Then, like you said about prisons being understaffed, you know, down in Georgia, there's places, the federal prisons. Hey, you stay understaffed, Chris, you got a bonus coming.
Yep.
The prison I worked with was averaged 87 people understaffed. Hey, honey, the rifle he just had on there, that AR, is the exact same rifle that you have. Same sight set up with a red dot. Coincidence, yeah. Little home defense here. Oh, by the way, unofficially,
We like guns.
we are supporters of Bear Creek Arsenal. I'll get on here and I'll put the link to that on here. Bear Creek Arsenals, we got an AR-15 from them and some stuff. Great stuff. But $87 at this prison, this one prison, 26 prisons in Georgia. We average 87 officers understaffed, beginning salary $31,000. So 31,000 times 87 is a lot of money. I don't have a calculator because it's on my phone and my phone's busy. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to save. So if you're going to save, if you're the warden of that prison and you do your comms report and it goes down into the state and they're like, hey, you saved us $3 million in salary, he's going to get more than a $5,000 bonus, don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he will.
So if you and I are wardens and we're out golfing, you know, because that's just our excuse to get away from the prison. So we're out golfing, riding around in a golf cart, haven't hit a ball in 3 hours, but we're driving and talking. And the phone rings and they say, hey, both you guys, you're understaffing. You're both going to get $100,000 bonus, Christmas bonus early, July 4th bonus. Do you think we're going to hurry up and hire people?
Nope.
We're thinking, man, that's a half a house. It's a lot of money. That's paying bills. Prisons and stuff are understaffed. And that's the truth. People need to know this. It is. You know, I left down there.
And these officers can't be safe with them being understaffed.
Understaffed. 5 of my friends have been stabbed right after leaving due to corruption that I was exposing. Our buddy was stabbed 13 times. Wife and I went down with the kids, went down to Atlanta to see Officer McGill. On the left side, the stroke side, 13 stab wounds by an inmate. And he was stabbed. It was initiation to get into a gang. They said, you want to be in a gang? You stabbed an officer tonight at lockdown. Just that simple. Understaffed, and he got stabbed.
And that goes back
So,
to...
I'm thinking if the 4 of us are on the jury, 4 of us are on the jury, and we listen to all of this, and we're thinking, CEO of this huge company has all this power and control. Power of the hand, the wand, to say, click the button for yes, click it for no. Approve yes, approve no. Bonuses yes, bonuses no to the staff. We're on the jury, and they present this, and they say all this premeditated stuff. Now he's temporarily insane because his back hurts. By the way, I had spine surgery last year. I got back problems too, but I haven't killed anybody.
It was the same surgery, by the way.
Same surgery. I've got screws. I got the infusion, got a cage. I haven't killed anybody. I've not expressed desire to. I'm just chilling out, you know, talking. He decides he's wealthy. He's got money. hey, I think I'm going to go and make an example and open a door. I'm going to go kill him and go spend the rest of my life in prison with a bunch of smelly inmates with terrible food. I can cry like P. Diddy's crying over the food. You know, by the way, which they talked about Luigi, and he's in the same building there of P. Diddy, and they got Cornish hen and like baked potato and something.
And our veterans can't even eat that good.
You know what they had for Christmas dinner down there at the prison I worked in?
Slop.
Collard greens that look like grass clippings. And coincidentally, they always serve collard greens the day after the lawn crew was out mowing the grass inside the prison. Yeah, my wife's laughing at me on that. They had got collard greens, didn't even get hamburger and hot dog day. Collard greens, maybe spaghetti, maybe some kind of meatloaf. And I don't know if you ever watch, you know, Gordon Ramsay. We've been into this lately. You know, Master Chef.
I love
And a
Gordon
couple
Ramsay.
times he'll say, it looks like a dog vomited on your plate. The prison I worked at, their Christmas dinner looked like dog vomit. And these guys are complaining about having a Cornish hen, a whole Cornish hen to themselves. How about ripping a Cornish hen and serving it to 6 different inmates with a couple noodles and collard greens? How about that for Christmas? And he chose to go commit murder to bring up this conversation for that, a life of that? Or does he have a secret? Does he think that money, like you said, is money going to walk? Is money going to get him off? Is he pulling that?
I think he really expected to spend the rest of his life in jail.
You think so?
I think he was fed up. Like I've said before, good things happen because bad things happen because good people allow them to happen.
So he snapped.
It's gotta change.
So basically, he snapped.
We're the richest country in the world, and we have more people dying because they can't afford their medicine than poor countries. Than countries who can't get food. Like, it's insane. The life expectancy in America is going down. The rest of the world is going up. It's going down because of these corporations, because of what they're doing.
Yep.
Like, it's cheaper for them. They've already figured it out. It's cheaper for them to let you die than to pay for your medicine and pay for your health care because they've driven the price up so high. Because they don't just own the insurance company. They own the insurance company. They own parts of the pharmaceutical company. They own the go-betweens, the pharmaceutical brokers. They own the hospitals. Like, it's insane. It's a big monopoly.
You're right, it
and
is.
they would rather just keep making money. And to hell with anybody else. Because it's not their family. It's not going to happen to their family.
Exactly. But God
Right.
forbid if somebody does get a nerve disease or cancer or autism or whatever, they want to put all the money into it.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter to them because if their family gets sick, they've got the money to pay for it all out of pocket.
Exactly. Or they
And
have
they've got
doctor
the lawyers
friends.
for if they try to not cover it, to fight it. Because that's the thing. It's not even that you can't fight this stuff. It's that if you can,
You don't have
if you
the
have
money.
the money to fight it, if you can hire a lawyer. If you can't hire a lawyer, I guess you just die.
No, I've had a dirty attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty attorney. And him and the doctor was friends. So it was just a joke to them about getting my nerve disease. It was just a joke.
So then in that theory, Luigi goes out and shoots somebody. I watch you suffer. Does that justify me to go out and shoot the lawyer and the doctor?
No.
To open up a conversation, as Luigi says in a manifesto. So do I have a right to do that? Does Chris have a right to go do that if somebody does that to his family member? That's the question. At what point? So as the jury, back to this question, Chris and I and the other 2 guests, as the jury, the 4 of us, are we going to say not guilty by temporary of insanity?
Well, what happens down here is totally different in God's eyes. So we can't be the punisher. That's not our place.
No, you're right. And
I understand that, but is it also your place to just sit by and watch evil happen?
Well,
that's evil.
Yeah, it is evil. You're right.
Like taking medicine away from autistic kids is evil. There's no other word for that. Like it's evil.
Yeah.
Like
I know.
There's no redeeming quality in that. There's nothing good. There's nothing good coming from that.
No.
They're doing it just to make extra profit, and they're doing it to buy back stock. They're not even doing it to better anything. They're doing it to have an extra zero in their bank account.
Mm-hmm. I think they should be held accountable, but I don't think
there's no way to have accountability when a corporation's that big. But the FEC can't take them on. They have too many lawyers. The government can't take them on because they pay all the politicians.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the reason why so when Obamacare was passed, there was supposed to be a public option, which would have allowed everybody in America to buy into Medicaid. It would have driven the price down of private insurance, and it would have given everybody in the country a cheap, good, quality health insurance option. It eventually would have pushed us to probably single-payer health care. But it didn't happen, even though Democrats had full control of the House and the Senate, because they had a rotating villain.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was Lieberman, who flatly refused to pass Obamacare if they had the public option in it. Since then, like I've said, the subsidies that we're paying for health insurance is insane. And that's just going to these health insurance pockets. It's the same scam that they're running now on Medicaid, where you have these Medicaid supplemental programs. You don't need those. But they're selling them anyways, and they're getting by with it.
Well, they made me take mine.
I scream every time they get on there, and Joe Namath and them people, Medicare Part B, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I scream every time he's on there doing that. Oh, you can get your groceries, you can get this, you can get that, you can add. Oh, yeah, they want to keep taking your whole check and give you these benefits. Take all their money back. And then I get breaking news 3 times a day about Social Security increasing, Social Security changing. And now I got one today about retirees, certain retirees, like 2 million people in the United States, retirees from a certain work sector are going to get an increase where the others aren't.
Well, that's like the Democrats. They got extra.
Like Social Security, it's going to go bankrupt. But the only reason why it's going to go bankrupt is because we don't tax people on Social Security past $125,000. If
I don't even get that much.
People past $125,000 for Social Security, we would have a surplus in Social Security. It would never run out. But we've rigged every single thing in this country to promote the richest people. And when you do that, something like this is bound to happen. We do not like a ruling class, especially in America. We overthrew a king, and we murdered a bunch of people when that happened. This is the same thing. This has happened multiple times in our country. Back in the 30s, Rockefeller and all the rich people tried to get the military to do a coup in America.
Mm-hmm.
Like this happens every 30 or 40 years. This is why in the 50s and 60s, when our country had the best economy, the most homeowners, the best quality of living and everything else, you had a high tax rate of 91% for a marginal tax rate. If you made more than $2 million, 91% of your money went to taxes. And it's because we didn't want barons like we had in the early 1900s. That's the reason why we have a 5-day work week now. It's because the labor movement came in and shut everything down and said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And we got rid of the oil barons and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what happens when you allow rich people to have too much money. You allow them to have too much money, they start controlling everything, and then they start murdering everybody.
That's right.
Because they don't care.
They're
It's
above the law, they think. Hello, Hayden Roberts. Thanks for joining. He just popped in on the comments here. And there's my wife here popped a comment in here with a link. The second book I wrote with my partner Timothy Amdahl is called "Why People Kill: Looking Deeper for Answers." And this is kind of like I'll kind of give a secret about this book. It's on Amazon, but it's the black box theory, meaning in the moment somebody makes a decision to kill and they have door A, B, and C, A, B, C, and D. Why do they always pick A, murder, instead of leave, take a step back, report it, use other systems? Why is it always murder? And a part of that, we do talk about what Chris is saying, like OJ, opportunity. Didn't want her to have money. Didn't want anybody to have his money, his fame, his fortune, his anything. OJ was going to be OJ, inclusive. Nobody else was in his circle, which involved his money.
That was a joke.
Why do rich people get off? Why do rich people get off?
Money.
Oddly enough, why do professional athletes
Get off.
don't get off, like driving drunk and they wreck and kill somebody? Several professional athletes have done that. They get that involuntary manslaughter. Now, a normal person may only get 1 to 5 years. Professional athletes are getting the same thing. What about pro wrestlers? What about pro UFC fighters? They kill outside of the ring. And this is another topic we'll talk about, Chris, one day, about. And I like MMA. I was training last year. I wanted to do this. I've always been fighting my whole career. But is that element of that getting in the mindset to make people, all these videos you see on TikTok and YouTube, none of mine. I'm not involved in any of them. Thank goodness. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is the whole world getting involved and want to fight? Our world is overcharged.
It's the fight or flight.
Yes, fight or flight. Why are people stuck in fight mode?
Because
And why do they enjoy it so much?
So it's intentional. The people that created YouTube algorithm, the ones that created the Facebook algorithm, and all that stuff, are the same people.
Oh, are you still there? Oh, hold on.
What?
Hold on. I lost him. Can you call him back? I lost him on the phone. Yeah, they can call right back. Can you text
Sorry
Jaden?
about that, baby.
Text Jaden and tell her we're on a. Sorry, we had some fight, flight, or freeze. But it seems like they want to fight. Seems like, and I've spent a lot of my career where I want to fight. I probably still want to fight, but just with my back, it's not the best thing for me to do. Shouldn't do. Not allowed to do. Can't do. Not unless I'm defending myself. But everybody wants to fight. Everybody wants to fight. If everybody's continuing to want to fight, then you're going to have a lot more murders, a lot more deaths. We're going to have a lot more situations like this. What if, let's pose this question here, Chris. What if Luigi has this manifesto, I plan to do this. He approaches him that night, not with a gun, but he runs up bare hands and fights and kills him with his bare hand. Would it still be the same uproar? Or would they say, he was just mad and they got in a fight like two men? They were settling like men out back by the woodshed. Would this be a different topic?
It'd be just as much. I think it'd still be just as much as an uproar, because I think the reason why this is so big is because of who the guy was. It's because this is the ruling class. It's the same reason why you saw that mother charge. When you take on the ruling class, they freak out. That's the reason why everybody on cable news was sitting around saying, oh, we don't know why he did this. And everybody in America was sitting in their armchair going, what do you mean? We all know why he did it. That guy's evil. He deserves to die. Like, he did. Like, I do not feel bad for that dude at all. I feel bad for his kids, and that's it. Like,
The family that lost a father, a husband, and a father.
I don't really feel bad for the wife. She knew what he was doing. There's blood on her hands. If you marry somebody and they're doing evil, you're just as guilty. You should have taken yourself out of that situation and Until people refuse to do evil acts, it's going to continue to happen. Until they refuse to prop up people that are doing evil, this will continue to happen.
Like saying Luigi is a handsome young man, and you know, just like if you remember a couple years ago, they arrested that dude down in Florida. I just call him a dude because people get arrested. I say dude. And remember, they were like, oh, he's the best looking, and he's got all these lawyers and this female lawyers doing this pro bono. What do you remember this? Dude, you know, he had long hair or whatever, got his hair cut short, all of a sudden got cleaned up for a mugshot. I don't know what happened. But why does somebody's appearance of being attractive or not make a difference, but they're making this a difference? But it's like, and here's a comment I want to tell you. Northern Girl Hobby says, people are fed up. Many are also messed up on trauma, drugs, and alcohol, etc. Yes, they're fed up. And how many times does somebody actually stand up and take that position and say, hey, I'm going to lead this? So he's leading this charge. He chose murder to do it, but he had a plan for a whole charge. Way beyond just, I'm going to kill this person because I want to. And it's in fact, he's done it because he's got a huge following.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he should. Like, I think this is what it sucks. It sucks that it's come to this, but when you've taken every other action you possibly can besides violence, you're left with no other option. You sue the companies, you write letters, you try to organize, you try to go through legislation, you try to do all of this, and none of it works. You can't even make headway. And people are dying every day. Thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon millions. How many Americans are dead over the last 20 years because of one greedy CEO? I'm sorry that he got shot, but is the blood that's on his hands any different than the blood that's on Luigi's hands? At least he had the nerve to stand up and do it. Nobody else in the government did. This guy's got blood on his hands. You have to do something. And he did.
And by doing this also, to add to that, I'm sure his attorney's going to say this, he has saved lives because now by the death of the CEO, there'll be a freeze, there'll be an immediate, like you said before about a half an hour ago, an immediate checks and balances. Hey, we better backtrack. Let's go back, evaluate. We need some emergency meetings, and they're going to look to see what's right and what's wrong and how they're helping people. And, you know, this is hysterical. We watched, I heard this on a Hallmark movie the other night. What was it, honey? The Christmas Stars? Where he...
Under the Stars?
It's called Under the Stars. Christmas Under the Stars, Hallmark Plus. They ended this movie. Now, this guy, he goes and interviews, and of course, Hallmark, everybody's a CEO or owner. But he's a young guy. He goes interviews for this job, you know, representing these big clients, everything. And instead, he helps this sick elderly man with selling Christmas trees instead of. And his dad comes, this young man comes from money and wealth. Anyhow, the lady that he interviewed with drove up and showed up in person, and she said, I've reviewed this and everything, and the female friend, they kind of really weren't girlfriend like you know, TV romance stuff, but his female friend acquaintance was going through medical stuff. But I could not believe Hallmark, what she said. We reviewed her case. We are going to pay her claims. Now, this is not a new movie. This came out before Luigi shot this guy. This movie's been out for a while. But Hallmark made a movie talking about healthcare, going back and reviewing somebody's claim, paying it, and they're going to look at other people that are involved, other similar, you know, citizens with this same or whatever health problem that their claims aren't being paid, and see if they can make that. And I thought that's really odd that Hallmark would use that as a punchline in a movie.
Yeah, that's amazing, but it shouldn't take that. And United Healthcare isn't trying to go back and check. They're doubling down. The new CEO was just caught on camera telling his employees not to talk to the media and tell them how they're forced to deny all these claims. and saying that they're helping all these people and all this is a lie. And it's like, it's in the data. United Healthcare had the highest denial rates of any insurance company. They weren't even going to doctors to deny these claims. They were using an algorithm. They were using a computer that was programmed to say no to everything. Like, it's not healthcare. Like, and companies like that shouldn't exist. There's no reason for them to exist. Their only job, the only way a health insurance company makes money is if you deny people and kill your consumers. There's no reason for that to be a company. It needs to be out of private industry. There's certain things that just private industry should not be a part of. Healthcare, prisons, stuff like that. You don't need corporates. You don't need profits involved in that. Profits do nothing good.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You know, in prisons in Georgia, a lot of them had vocational making things. Like we had a faith-based prison just down the road, 20 minutes away, and they would teach welding class and they would weld. They were welding. So they made the lockers in the bed frames for the whole state of Georgia there. But they also welded and made products that were sold commercially outside of the prison. And the guy that was the top welder, he also welded little Christmas trees out of little metally things, and he welded special things in cars for the warden because it was cool. And then they said, don't tell anybody he's doing that.
It's insane. Like, it's still...
Yeah, I'm going to leave work today. I'm going to go run to Walmart and say, in welding class, he made a Christmas tree for the warden. Anybody in Walmart, they're not going to care.
No.
But they told us not to say anything.
But I mean, in a lot of the places, like, they've taken that away. They've taken away... That's what I mean, like, where the criminal justice system is so screwed up in our country. Because you should be trying to make people better people in jail. You should be giving them ways to improve their lives. You want them to be a better person when they come out than when they went in. In our country, it's not like that.
In the places that they're going to get out.
They figured out a way. That's the reason why their incarceration rates are so low over there. Because people don't get reincarcerated, because when they go in, they figure out what's wrong with them and they give them options. When you come out of jail in America, you can't get a job, you can't get a house, you can't get food. If you put a person in a situation like that, of course they're going to steal. Of course they're going to rob somebody. Are you going to starve to death? No. If you put people in these hellish positions, crime is going to happen.
Well, that's
crime
the
is
people with all the
nothing
cars
but
up there
poverty. It
that
always
violated
has.
our ordinance and didn't move.
There's always going to be some evil people, but the majority of crime is because of poverty. And crime rates in America have been going down, especially violent crime. It goes down almost every year. We had a little spike during COVID, but the world was falling apart. Other than that, it keeps going back down because most people don't have to do violence. They find a way. But when you stick people in these horrible positions, it's going to happen. It's been like this for all of written history. If you leave people no option, they're going to act out.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we're going to, one thing I try and do, we're almost at an hour. I try and keep this at an hour. We're going to come back and visit this exact topic after a couple months of court, and if anything radical changes about this, you know how things can happen. Something can happen to him. He can become a victim waiting trial. You know what I'm getting at?
He could be murdered. Just say it.
He could be murdered waiting. We'll see what happens.
But people are on the looks, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they shouldn't say, "Oh, well, he's gorgeous."
He killed somebody, and what? 99% of the world thinks there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll debate this jury decision or any big updates about this. And I've got a list of some other topics, and we'll get back to it here in a couple days. Hey, this weekend we'll do another topic. I don't want to say over there right now because there are some people that do get on podcasts and they take people's topics and they try and steal and talk about stuff first and try and copy what they do. But I do have some other topics that are similar to this. We've mentioned a couple of them tonight without mentioning them. So we'll come back to those things. And it's the whole purpose of this is to have 2 or 3 sides to the story, because it's not always my side or her side or your side or her side, the one that's got the pillow laughing. This is what we need to do, is we need to discuss things.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank you all 3 of you tonight, and Chris for allowing me to use your name and being the focal point of this discussion. And we'll be back soon. And everybody I know is subscribed already. Hayden jumped on here a little while ago. We used to work at a car dealership together during COVID. Young Hayden, we sold cars. I run into him every now and then at the store. Yes, hope and purpose is the key. And just to say, to finish out about the welding, I'll give you the end of that story. That was a faith-based prison that was very unique. It was about 99% sex offenders there, and it was all people that were getting out. The prison that I worked, it was a level 3. The prison I worked at was a level 5, and it was about 96% life without parole, absolute never get out. So for them, you don't need to teach them any hobbies. They already have hobbies. That's why they're in prison. And the hobbies they're going to use in prison basically are killing each other, beating each other, and raping each other. When you have 5 counts of life without parole, you don't have much choice. You eat, sleep, and you commit crimes in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll use car sales. We sold new and used. Hayden was there for just a little while. I was there for about a year, went back to my other job when it opened up at the airport. Hayden left for a better adventure. Hayden just loves cars, and that's how he ended up being there for a little while. But yeah, car salesman, a whole different venture. Whole different. And that car sales is almost as big a scam as these health cares. I think that's a great topic for us really soon.
Yeah, I got some stories on that one.
No, that's Northern Girls Hobby. That wasn't a joke. That was serious. We've got some serious car stories. The things that happen. Like, I'll just leave it with this. The guy that sat next to me, and I made a video about this. The guy that sat the desk next to me went and did 25 years in prison for robbing 29 banks in Kentucky. Was shot by a detective friend of mine, and they all 3 laughed about it 25 years later. So I know the officer that shot him in the crime that he finally got caught, or he would have never got caught or until later. So isn't that odd that I know the guy robbing the banks, I'm selling cars with him, he's teaching me how to sell cars, but I also know the detective that shot him those 20-some years prior.
That's pretty funny.
As the world turns, as they say. Thanks, everybody. Stay warm. We've had about a foot of snow around here where we're at in Kentucky. We got to thaw out. I took a picture. Even our little 1-pound Chihuahua was curled up in the heating pad when I took it off. It's so cold, even the dog has to curl up in the heating pad. So we're just all trying to get through. I'm about to make some hot chocolate. We're about to get back at it here. So we'll talk again soon. Today is Monday. So a couple days later this week, we got a little busy week.
We do.
Zachary, hello. Thank you. We're about ready to get off. I just want to see what you said real quick.
I hear you, Mariah.
And they have not. Interesting, Zachary. Yes. Interesting. And Zachary, I hope you're subscribed. I was talking, Chris is going to, the 4 of us were going to talk. The subject is going to be war inside prison. And it's exactly what Zachary's just saying. The only reason that he was behind bars is because he got caught and the officer didn't. So that's great, Zachary.
I think we should do a serial killer one day.
We're going to talk about serial killers. We're going to talk some true crime. We're going to let it have it. We're going to let it have it. And we're going to bring some experience we all have into this world.
Yeah, because my girl on there knows about some serial
Yes,
killers.
the one over here hiding behind the pillow and giggling. We've discussed. We're gonna all Chris. I think you missed this conversation. So to prepare for this, we're gonna all talk about our 3 favorite serial killers. Does that sound messed up?
I don't have a favorite serial killer. That's weird.
Girl, you gotta have a favorite.
Favorite, most interesting case, the one that draws the most attention, you have the most memory of, or whatever, however you want to say it.
Okay, most memory of them.
So between the 4 of us, we're going to discuss 12 serial killers, and this might be a long, but we'll figure it out. Until next time, Zachary. All right, I got you. Thank you. Until a couple days, we'll be back live, and I'll try and make an announcement. We'll coordinate this with the 4 of us for an evening like this, and about the same time. That way, everybody has a couple hours notice. This news feed just became a spontaneous. Hey, let's all talk about it. Okay, let's do it. So I hit the button and turn on this light that's in my face for my complexion. You know, keep the shadows off. Christmas present, my podcast light. Microphone. But we'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Yeah, Chris, don't hang up. I'm just going to hit the button here, okay?
You're good.
Yeah, don't hang up. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.